everybody, welcome to our season 1. I'm sorry, I messed up already. Okay.
I don't know about you guys, but sometimes anxiety creeps up, and especially sometimes imposter syndrome creeps up.
And Letty, when you were sharing, I was like, whoa, come on now.
For this season 3. So all these conversations, it's all great, but there's more to give. Everybody, welcome back to season 3, episode 1 of Grow Together. We're so excited to be back. Hey, ladies, how are you doing?
Hey!
So good.
It is already 2022. I cannot believe it. So what are some of your, one goal? Just share one goal that you have for this year that you wish to accomplish. Letty, what do you have?
You know what? Just recently, I came in with this heart of wanting to read more. I'm not a natural reader. I wish I was. It has to be more of a discipline for me. So I'm trying to at least be realistic and try to read at least 2 books a month. So that's my challenge. I'm excited about it. And so, I need some motivation because that doesn't come natural for me, but I'm excited. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. And for those of you that are watching us right now, it's like, who's this Letty? I've never seen her. And that's right, because she is the new addition to our team, and I'm going to be introducing her just in a little bit. But Lainey, what is your one big goal?
So I actually have this dream of running a marathon in 2022. I'm not a runner. Just like Letty's like, I'm not a reader. I'm not a runner. I normally hate running, but I've been on a pretty difficult health journey, which several of you know, and I haven't always been able to walk super well this year. And so this has been the last month or even few weeks. I've just felt this stirring from the Lord to begin hoping again and begin dreaming again for what it could look like if my body was restored, when it's restored. And as I was making that bucket list, I was like, how cool would it be to have gone from a year ago not being able to stand well and walk well to in 2022 finishing a marathon.
Yes, it will get done.
But now I've said it, so you guys are going to hold me accountable, so now I'm scared.
That's right. All of you, please hold Lainey accountable, right? In Jesus' name, it will get done. How about you, Anna?
I'm trying to land on one thing because I'm there's so many different things. And this is going to sound so my birthday's in November. So I always kind of tie in my new year of life with the new year together. And I had a goal originally, and I felt the Lord was that's not the goal. Your one goal for the new year, because I try to make it one goal. And so I'm really trying to lean into integrity. I feel that's my word and my goal for this year is I really want to have a strong foundation. So everything that I preach, I want to live out in my life. So having a strong morning routine and time in the word, and anything that I communicate to other people and I'm yeah, you should do this. I want to make sure I'm practicing that in my life. So I feel it's a lot of little goals that lend to this idea of integrity, whatever I'm communicating that I'm actually practicing myself. So I'm right now, that means I am leaning into my morning routine, and I'm looking at my morning routine every day, kind of reevaluating it so that I start off my day abiding in Jesus, eating something healthy, and getting my day going right.
Oh, that's so good. That's very spiritual, Anna. That's really good.
It is, but so
I love it.
Little things. I feel it's
I
almost
love it.
Flossing your teeth, the thing you're supposed to, you're supposed to do. I want to be better at that in all the little areas of my life.
That's awesome. Love it. Mary, what's your one goal?
Yes, so I think for me, the one goal is to be better at boundaries this year. So I'm pioneering a ministry with my husband, and I'm fairly a newlywed. I've only been married about 1.5 years. So, a lot of opportunities come that I want to say yes to, but I'm trying to make sure that I don't fall into bad habits of becoming a workaholic or only doing this or putting all these different things before my marriage. And so that's sort of my goal in the new year. Finish out the year strong, establish boundaries, and in a healthy, strong way.
Wow, that's so good. My goal is to learn Spanish, pick it up, because I left it at level 101. So I'll be done with my school this year, guys, halfway through. So after that, I'm going to study what I really, really, really want to study, which is Spanish. So let it help me, okay?
Absolutely. I'm all in for it. Yes.
Thank you. My goal really in my lifetime, I'll preach in Spanish one day. It could be 50 years from now, but I will one day.
And I'll be
So-
there. Absolutely.
Thank you. All right. So today is the first episode, and we're excited to kind of unpack what is ahead. But we have like reflective questions that I want you, our audience, to join and maybe kind of engage. But at the end, we have some big news to break. So just stay in there because we want to share with you some exciting things that's coming up in this season 3. So I'm going to pose a question to Letty first. But Letty, I want to introduce you to our audience because you're so new. And you're representing so many our brothers and sisters across our denomination. And so I want to give you a shout out coming from West Texas. But people don't know who you are. So give us briefly how God's been leading and developing you in this ministry journey.
Yes, I am so excited and I'm so honored to be a part of this podcast. I really believe what God is doing in the lives of women. I myself, my name is Letty Garcia, so allow me to formally introduce myself. I come from the far end of West Texas, the land of cactus and oil. And so you walk out of your house, and if it smells like rotten egg, that's the smell of money. God has blessed our land. So this is where we're at. I currently serve alongside with my husband, and we've been serving as pastors of La Nueva Jerusalem Church here in Andrews, Texas, a very small town, about 16,000. It varies, but nonetheless, we are so honored to serve the Lord in full-time ministry. My husband's been pastoring for about 16 years, and I married along, so it's been about 10 years for me. But the Lord has been so good. We love our church, we love our people, we love serving the Lord. Also, here recently, the Lord has allowed me to serve as the new district youth director for the West Texas and Plains Latin American district. So yeah, we just finished our convention. Wild, mind-blowing. God is just so faithful. And so it keeps us busy. It keeps us on our toes. But we love this generation. We believe in this generation. And we believe in God continuing to rise up and call out students into ministry. And so this is what we do. I'm a mom of 2. My son Benjamin is 9 and Gianna is 6, going on 16 sometimes. But I love motherhood. I love the Lord, and I love what we do in ministry. So I'm so honored to be here. So excited to continue to meet each and every person that connects with us. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Hey, Letty, welcome to the team. So I love you. We're so excited. And I love that our team, this Under 40 podcast, we have some moms and some singles. That gives us fuller perspective of God's kingdom and work. So thank you for serving in your area. So that kind of leads to the questions you may have, maybe through your life. You're living in a busy life cycle right now, busy season. Praise the Lord. But what kind of questions do you process in this season?
There's a lot of them, but I think one that is so pivotal now in this season that I'm personally walking in, and I think many can relate to, it's how do you say the best yes in finding balance in ministry and finding balance in what we do. And to be very honest, I'm still finding my way, because here recently it's just catapulted. This whole year, I can probably say all last year was just crazy. And so it feels so recent and so crazy that we've just had the busyness of moving in forward in our district, in our youth ministries. Again, in November, we had our convention. It was mind-blowing, crazy, and busy. And so just finding the balance, I think first and foremost, for me, is understanding and appreciating my season. I think it's very easy as women, we look around the room and we see that there are some in the room that are thriving. There are some in the room that are at different areas and different momentums in their life. And it's kind of stepping back and appreciating and defining my season, because as you mentioned, many of us are moms, many of us are single, recently married. We all have different seasons in our lives. So one is, it's defining my season. Letty, first and foremost, you're a servant of the Lord. You love the Lord. That comes priority. That comes first. I need Jesus all the time. My husband can tell you that I need Jesus all the time. But aside from that, I'm a wife and I'm a mom. And so in my priorities and in my balance, it's defining my priorities. And for me, I can be all of that. I can be a pastor to many. I can be a leader to youth pastors and leaders. I can be a district director to students. But first and foremost, I have my children. I have my family. That is priority and will always be priority for me. So it's understanding that. And so the yes for me, it's understanding that it's not taken away from the time that I have with my children. And that's hard, because it's almost like that's the easiest area you can kind of cut off your schedule and your agenda. It's okay, they understand. It's okay, they're with dad. It's okay, grandma steps in. We have an amazing village of people that help and support us with our children. But that is my season. Okay, I'm all that, but I'm also a mom. And so it's understanding my priorities and where my yes comes in. It's defining that. It's defining if it's taken away, then unfortunately it's going to be a not right now. Maybe not an absolute no, just not a not right now. And so understanding that there's going to be quick and fast and busy seasons, like November was crazy for us. Flowing into December was crazy for us. So it's also understanding like, okay, so a lot of other things are going to have to kind of understand that flexibility. So balance is hard, but not having balance is unhealthy. And it's unhealthy for my mental health. It's unhealthy for my spiritual well-being. And so just in that process, find your time with the Lord. He's going to define that for you. He's going to be the one to direct you. The Holy Spirit's going to be the one to help you in that season. And learning also when to say not right now. And so I've enjoyed, this season in ministry, but hope that, cultivate some kind of point of discussion.
And Letty, when you were sharing, I was like, whoa, come on now. Like, you're like hitting so many veins. Like, yes, like those are like the first parts of like who I am. Like, I'm a servant of the Lord. I'm a lover of the Lord. And then I can be a leader to, some, and I can be pastor to many, but like there are certain things that only like I can do. And those are sometimes the things I put on the back burner because it feels easy. So it's so good.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. And I think we also have to think long-term, think big picture, as women, as we get opportunities, we want to just be there all the time because, we're growing in our journey. And so we want to become more visible, more participate more, so we want to take on every opportunity. But I think about my families or other women in ministry and other ministers that I work alongside, what they are learning from my decisions and choices that I make. Like what are the examples that I'm setting before them, so by saying the best yes, meaning like I say no, it's okay to say no to certain good opportunities, right? Even some amazing opportunities that come your way, we are able to say no because we show priorities and values in others, and we just modeling it to other people as you grow. So good, Letty. And I love saying it a Letty because like that's how you say your name. I want to say how you say your name. Letty, right?
That's perfect.
Love it. Yes. Perfect. Yes. I hate it when people butcher my name. That's how I'm gonna say it too. Yeah. All right. So I'm gonna pass the mic to Eleni. You are also going through a lot in this season, but you're still focusing on your calling as a minister. So what's some questions that you're processing in this journey that is relevant to all of us?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's interesting because I was coming out of a season with bivocational ministry in a lot of respects, but I was a full-time student as well, working on my master's in divinity and almost done with it. I was finishing it up. So learning is on the forefront of your mind, right? That's like what you're doing constantly. You're reading through a fire hose, which Saehee, you totally understand. And so I think, you're constantly focusing on developing your learning and that learner inside of you. And then when I took a forced step back with my health, all of that went away, right? For a pause, for a season. And you get to this place where there's needed pause, but you also now have to redefine what does it look like to cultivate being a learner, because it doesn't look like just our textbook, right? Which it never
Right.
should in our life. But for years, I think we're trained being young and doing elementary school, high school, college, and we develop these predefined, what does it mean to be a learner? But then we get into our life and we continue in quote unquote the real world, all the pressures that we've already talked about come into play. And I think it's easy to let a couple of things go. And I think one of the things sometimes we can put on the back burner or stop thinking about intentionally is cultivating the learner inside of us. And I think sometimes we have to think creatively about what does that look like in this season. So I think for me, it's been very unusual. It's depended upon the week. I think being a learner at times has been, for me, a big part of that has been learning through my own pain, cultivating what it means to be curious about other people's lives, and learning, okay, I know what it feels like to be walking through sustained pain. How can I now journey alongside of people with longevity in their pain? So that's been something I've been trying to really lean into and learn. But there's lots of ways we can do that. So I wanted to throw that out to you guys and say, okay, what are the ways that you cultivate that learner? How do you keep that learner alive in you in your busy seasons?
Wow, that's a good question.
Yeah, that's so good. I think for me and some of my conversations with friends, we'll often ask ourselves, like, what are you trying to grow in this season? What are you trying to learn in this season? And then go ahead and ask them, do you have any resources? Can we meet up the next time that we meet to talk about this? And can you hold me accountable in this area that I do grow in this area? And so I'm definitely an avid reader. I love reading books, love listening to podcasts. You can do that on the go. And then just also trying to find time for me, I love reading and researching all of this, but I love communicating that with another person. And so those are sort of some of the things that I try to do.
Yeah, I love that, Mary, because you're so right. It's community, right? It's doing that together with one another. We learn so much, and even that accountability is gold.
Yeah, it's so good. Hey, if you guys have any other thoughts for those that are listening, how are you cultivating that learner in every season? Let us know in the comment. It's really good, Lainey, because I also am learning that unlearning is an important learning to do. So, like in this process, like there's so many things that I need to like just kind of pause and not do in order for me to learn and grow. So like you said, we're always being trained to next education, next thing to do. But then God calls us to the place of solitude, place of reflection, place of quietness. And that's when we're molded and shaped even better. And so I'm practicing that. I'm learning to do that. And my mentor, and I think it's a pretty common saying too, has told me that the great leader is a lifelong learner. So whatever shape and form it takes, it can be a formal education, it can be informal life skills, interpersonal skills, so important. Just keep learning whatever it is, and keep your brain and life and mind engaged in this journey. I think that's pretty important for us to do as well. That is pretty awesome. I know that when it comes to the topic of learning, we cannot exclude Anna, because she is also a very educated woman, but she's also a teacher and also a preacher and everything. Anna, what are you learning in this season of finding balance?
Such a good question, because I feel what I love about getting together with this group of women, and this is really, I think, a majority of women, female ministers that I meet is like, they wear so many hats. And so you said like teacher, preacher, all these things. I'm like, yeah, those are all of the arenas that I walk in, which is super fun and super rewarding. But man, Letty, what you had said in the beginning, like so resonated with me, is some of those like basic things that get put on the back burner. And so one thing that I've really been wrestling with and wanting to be more intentional about is, as a female minister, how do I intentionally develop and I really identify and develop healthy friendships? Because in the busyness of life, in the fullness of life, friendship can be like just like a nuisance. It's like, meh, I've got a million things to do. The last thing I need to do is like get coffee or FaceTime or whatever it may be. And so I'd love to hear from you guys in the full seasons that you live in, as you wear a lot of hats in multiple arenas. How are you guys pursuing friendship, developing friendship, discovering healthy friendship?
That I keep on saying it's so good because it's a very true reality. And personally, coming on a pastoral side, um, you cultivate relationship with people, and it's almost like, and I want to say this very cautiously, but it's almost like a job description, right? Like someone wants to meet with you, so it naturally becomes a conversation over coffee on how you can motivate or encourage someone, but really trying to define those moments and areas of really establishing genuine friendship. I'm so grateful, and I may pose this question as well, because coming into full-time ministry and coming into pastoring, you hear a lot of you can't make friends in ministry. Like you can't. I remember that being a big factor for me. Like you can't befriend the people you lead. You can't establish true friendship, and it may be different for me, but I would like to say otherwise. I've been able to establish a very close friendship with one of our strong leaders here at the church. And to be honest, it's very hard. We have that balance of, okay, now I lead and now we're friends. Okay, now we're talking as friends and now we lead. But it's also establishing those areas in friendship as well, and cultivating that specifically with her, managing that area and balancing it. But at the same time, finding time for friendships with other women in ministry that are going to understand that I can specifically share perhaps something that I'm facing on a personal level that may not be extremely beneficial for someone who I lead, right? But I'm still understanding, I'm still balancing that, because like you said, sometimes we're just too busy to have a cup of coffee and have a conversation. But I would say that it's those moments that I find even a 10-minute conversation with a mentor, with a friend, with a genuine friend, that I leave that conversation motivated, encouraged, so blessed. And so I realized when I end the call, wow, Letty, you really do need friends. You can't do this walk and this ministry alone. You need someone to be able to walk alongside you, link arms, and genuinely be that encouragement for you. So I hope that in some way answered that question, but I'm still learning that balance, and I'm still doing my best with being intentional with my friendships as well.
That's so good. I think the other thing that I would add is moving to a new city after I got married about a year ago. Definitely put me in a situation where, like, wow, I need to make new friends. They're not just going to fall out of the sky. And so really took an opportunity with all the ministry events that we have to go to sometimes, praying ahead and saying, who's someone that I can connect with while I'm there? And just having the courage and the boldness to walk up to them and say, hey, I would love to grab coffee or dinner sometime to get to know you. And I also believe it would be great to have friendships within our community, but sometimes a friend can be a phone call away, a Zoom call away, And so just really trying to be intentional in those moments. And something else that I've realized, like with the hecticness and the busyness of life, I really have to make it a priority. Like I'll look up and I'll go weeks, I'll go a long time without any sort of social interaction with somebody that's my equal. And so also trying to prioritize it and reaching out and going ahead and letting them know, like, hey, let's try to do this once a month. All of those different things to try to maintain healthy friendships with someone that can be an iron sharpen iron type of relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. That's good. As you're having this conversation and as you're listening, you may think of some friends and like, yeah, that's my friend. I'm so thankful. Even if it's just one, I'm so thankful that I have a friend that I can call out to. Why don't we just tag your friend and say, thanks for being my friend, and tag it. Thanks for being my friend, Letty. Thanks for being my friend, Lady. All that. Let's just give him a big shout out. It's really great. And there's a seasons of friendship too, like you don't have to have a lifelong, from cradle to grave kind of friendship, because God gives us the right kinds of friends in different seasons. Yeah. And as a married person, we think that, our spouse is our best friend. And that is true. But you also have to find balance and knowing that find somebody who's in your season, understands your life and journey as a female minister. It's totally different, so life-giving. So I'm glad that you're part of this NWM tribe. You belong here. So I have a final thought and question maybe for Mary. We're having this conversation about finding balance in life and how do we still pursue this life and calling as a leader and still find friendship. It's a busy, hectic life. But as we're doing this, there's probably another important questions that we need to keep asking. Do you have anything like that, Mary?
Yes, I think for me in this season, as we've been balancing the friendships and the ministry and trying to remain a learner. I don't know about you guys, but sometimes anxiety creeps up, and especially sometimes imposter syndrome creeps up, especially when we get into an area of, oh, I'm becoming a learner. Maybe I know more about this in this area, and we receive opportunities to share that. For me, I can still walk into maybe a situation where I'm the only female or the only minority female. And in one moment, I have anxiety. In one moment, I have imposter syndrome where I start to believe maybe I don't belong here. Maybe I'm not supposed to be here. And for those of you who may be wondering, like, what in the world is imposter syndrome? Well, first off, it's just saying that it's this lie that we believe that from persistent undervaluing ourselves and undervaluing our competency, that any areas or achievements that we have is from sheer luck, or other external factors that come in that just say, I'm not really qualified for this, and somebody's gonna find out, So it's this lie that we have to combat. So just wondering and curious with any of you, have y'all ever experienced this? What sort of ways that you've done to encourage yourself in this sort of situation? I think for me, I have to remember that this is not a fluke. This is not an accident. I have been anointed. I've been appointed by God. And through various seasons of preparation, I prepared myself to carry that anointing. So that's sort of something I try to remind myself with affirmation and saying, you do belong here. What about any of you?
Yeah, I think that's so insightful, Mary. I think we all experience that in different ways. I think it's easy sometimes to feel like we're the only ones who are feeling imposter syndrome or feeling these different things. And then you start having open and honest conversations. And it feels like, at least in my world, almost everyone I've talked to, when you open up that conversation, they're like, oh, me too. Right? Well, I feel like that. You feel like that? Oh, I didn't think you would feel like that. And so I think, I know for me, I felt it specifically a lot of times when I've been in, honestly, oftentimes in church circles, or when I step into, especially at the seminary, and I have felt a lot of, looking around and be like, oh my goodness, okay, no one looks like me. No one seems to really act like me. Our cultures are very different. And I can start to think, okay, I don't belong here, right? Like I think I picked the wrong field. Like I'm not the right gender. I'm not the, right, whatever, quote unquote. And we can start feeling like, oh my goodness, we feel so small. And I think the way that sometimes took on a life of its own in my world was through this anxiety and this serious pressure of, okay, now I have to represent who I am to this group of people or to the world, and I have to do it at 100% all the time. Like my batting average has to be perfection, right? Because I just feel like all the pressure of the world is on me to hit it out of the park, a home run constantly. And that's way too much pressure for any person to hold ever, because none of us can do that. And perfect people's a myth, one. So if anybody in our circles is pretending that they're perfect, that's, right there, that's imperfection. So it's just not right. So I think, let's not call them out on it. We can do it lovingly. But I think, part of it for me was just taking the step back and being like, okay, there's a lot of things that I've decided I care about and that I've decided make me in or out that the Lord doesn't care about at all. And it's just that constant place of coming back to, okay, Lord, I feel like an imposter here. But, so did Abraham in an unknown land.
Oh, that's good.
So did all of these people. So did Esther in her court, right? Like, the Lord uses unassuming people and places us in unexpected environments. And that's where he moves powerfully. And so I think it's just been trying to come back to that. Be like, okay, this is about where the Lord has me right now. And it's not about the expectations or how well I meet those expectations, and just trying to lean into that. And then finding, it goes back to community. I think I'll also say really briefly as well, finding the people, like Anna said, identifying who are those authentic and life-giving relationships that are around us, who we can name the things, who we can speak honestly with and be like, I'm sensing this anxiety in my heart. Can I talk with you about it? Because one thing I found is like the unnamed enemy is much harder one to fight and a much more overwhelming one. So the second my friends and I together can name that and then say, okay, this is what I'm dealing with, we can work together. We can pray, we can talk, we can dialogue. And then suddenly I've taken away a lot of the power that I was holding inside of my heart. So
that's good.
Thanks.
That's so good. And Lainey, I love that you said that because like my counseling background, like begs me to ask, like, you got to get curious with it. Like you've got to name it. What we name, we can tame is a phrase I like to use a lot. So like, as you're feeling that imposter syndrome, getting curious with it. Why am I feeling this way? What's underneath this anxiety right now? Is it fear that I'm not good enough? Is it me feeling undervalued? Is it, is this attached maybe to an experience I have had previously before? And this is actually like triggering for me, is getting down into the root of it, not moving past it, not denying it, and just, say like putting a Band-Aid on it and be like, whatever. Get curious with it. And you might not be able to get curious with it in the moment it happens, but tucking it away and say, okay. And then inviting, I love Lainey talked about bringing in like somebody with you and say, hey, will you help me get to the root of this? I have a really good friend that I had been dealing with some imposter syndrome stuff. And this is a friend of mine who's a little bit further along in the journey of ministry and just life than me, and really got to like chew on some of that with her. And it was so freeing and so helpful, but we name it. We don't deny it, but we get to the roots of it.
Name it and tame it. I love it. I am looking around because I have some books I want to share with you guys. It's just like so relevant to our conversation. So what we've been talking about is imposter syndrome. There's a term for it. It's called the sticky floor. All the insecurities that women, we impose it on ourselves. There's a glass ceiling that we cannot control, but there is something called a sticky floor that we ourselves just kind of pose it against. And so that idea is here on the book called Developing Female Leaders by Kadi. I love this book. It just came out not too long ago, but this is another book that I really, really love. Just Lead. No whining, no complaining, no nonsense. I love this. And this is a practical guide by Jenni, Catron, and Surratt. Love this book. So if you guys want to get some ideas on that, I use this for my paper and I always go back to this. So I thought this is pretty cool. Now, all right, friends, this is, oh my goodness, I almost like knocked you guys out. All right, this is a time that I am excited to share some new news for this season 3. So all these conversation, it's all great, but there's more to give. And this is pretty exciting. So anyone likes to break the news for us?
Ooh, I'll break the news. Yay! We are so excited about this with you guys. We have been talking and praying about what we wanted to see happen, or what we thought the Lord as well was guiding us to see happen. And we've loved meeting with you in this capacity, and we'll keep doing that with our podcast. But we were talking, and we want to know you at a greater depth. And we want you to know us at a greater depth. And we want our conversations to be so relevant and in live time. So we thought, in order to really cultivate more of that conversation and to get more on the pulse of what I'm feeling, what you're feeling, and create that conversation and dialogue, we are actually also going to be offering live conversations. So, yay! So we'll be doing that relatively quarterly. You'll see that. We'll push it out on our social media so you'll know kind of when it's coming up. But please, 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 if you can, come and join us. And this is not like, you've heard us, you've seen us. This is not like all put together time. If you're coming home from a billion different things, my kids are in the background, or, I'm trying to get dinner or whatever, we don't care. We probably will be too. Just join us. Come in, tune in live, and we're going to have some great conversations.
Yes, we're so excited. So just follow us, continue to follow us, just like you saw on the below at AG Women Ministers. It's going to be so great. And you get to know each of us really intimately, and we get to learn more about you. And I'm going to be behind the scene when that live happens, because I'm going to be cheering you on and just start typing away and engage in that conversation. It's going to be so great. So don't miss that. Stay tuned. Friends, have a wonderful 2022. God has something very special, and it's going to be the year of blessings. So receive that, and we'll see you back next time. God bless.
Bye.